I will take this in English, I'm afraid, but I hope you all will understand. So, I will begin by telling you a story. This is a true story, and this is one of the reasons why I once had the vision about Barnebys. There was once upon a time an antique dealer. He was living in Stockholm and he was visiting the small auction house outside Stockholm. Now, normally buy furniture and pieces of works of art, but this time he saw a painting. Big like this, a still life that he liked. So he ended up in the front row in the auction room where he started to bid on the painting and he bought it for 300 euros. After the auction, he took the painting under his arm, went to his shop in the central of Stockholm where he put it in the window and asked for 1,200 euros. After 1 year, he didn't sell the painting. So he went to the world's oldest auction house, Stockholms Auktionsverk, in the middle of Stockholm, where he left it on the weekly sale. Today is their online sale. They had the same estimate, 1,200 euros. Now, after a couple of days, one of their own experts saw the painting in their visiting area, exhibition area, and he said, this painting has such a great quality, so why don't we have it on the quality sale? They withdrew it from the online sale, and they put it in the quality sale with an estimate of 5,000 to 6,000 euros. When the auction was held, the hammer fell down on 80,000 euros. Now the buyer was a UK art dealer who took it to London, his restorer, to take away all the dirt and old varnish and confirmed it as original work by the Italian Renaissance painter Giuseppe Arcimboldo. Now, he took the painting to Sotheby's in New York, where the painting was sold for $1.2 million euros. The buyer at Sotheby's in New York was an American art dealer who took the painting to Maastricht, the fair, where he put it on the wall with a price tag on 6.5 million euros. So now, how come the price can go from 300 euros in Stockholm to 6.5 million euros in Maastricht? Well, this was, of course, when the auction market looked like this. A room, I would say, fourth of the size as this, with an amount of people for the size of you are today, and that's where the market price was set. Today, as you all know, it looks different. So how come it could be sold for 300 euros in Stockholm and 6.5 in Maastricht? Well, of course, that depends on knowledge about the art market, knowledge about the restorer, who the artist was, etc. But more than anything, it had to do with transparency. 2011, when me and my co-founder, Christopher, started Barnebys, it was born from a personal experience. I had 15 years at that time from the industry working for auctions and dealers. When I was working for auctions, the biggest challenge was to understand who is going to be the consumer in the future, who is going to be the buyer, the collector, who is buying Scandinavian design, but also the weekends, furnitures, or old masters, and how to reach them globally and Sweden. The challenge for the dealer was the opposite. I had clients with billion accounts, but they were looking for a certain painting by a certain artist, certain period, certain motive. How to find it? I could spend 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, trying to find the painting to my clients, but I still just reached 5 to 10% of the market. There was a lack of transparency. On the other hand, my co-founder Christopher, he had never been to an auction in his entire life before, but this particular day, 2011, he wanted to buy a painting for his country place. So he did 9 out of 10 does. He started his purchase on internet, at Google. On page number 19, he found the painting that he bought that is still hanging on his country place. Now, do you know how many people that don't leave page number 1 today at Google? That is 95%. 35% is clicking on the domain number 2 on Google's first page. Number 3 is 17%, and number 7 on the first page is 3.5%. This means that if you're not on Google, you don't exist to the greater audience that are out there. This is Harry Gordon Selfridge. This was a commercial genius who once said the legendary word, "the customer is always right." This wisdom, this insight, is more true than ever when it comes to our industry. The customer is always right. It's no longer a small group with auctioneers, dealers and collectors that set the rules how to play the game. Today, the user set the rules. And when I say the user, that is your potential clients or clients of today. So, well, the change. What is the change? Well, the change is this. Today, you have the market in your phone and it's reachable from anywhere in the world where you are, as long as you have a device and you have the Wi-Fi. When I started in this business, the industry was, I would say, horrified. They were paralyzed by the fact that internet was more than just a trend. But today you can see how art dealers, auctioneers are getting more and more attached by the fact that traffic and tech is now their daily basis. When I started, they were talking about the 3 Ds, death, divorce and disaster. The typical client was a he was kind of old, he was a lawyer, he was a doctor, and he was collecting for all his life, and when he had the disaster or died, then was the time to sell. Today, especially with the new audience, the 2 new Ds are decluttering and downsizing. And that is actually the main reason why people sell today. And especially when you come to the so-called millennials. The group of 18 to 40 is an extremely huge group of potential clients for you. But you should know that this group has a high engagement. They are caring about their carbon footprint. They are caring about sustainability. But they are also starting in the volume market, the volume segment, the mass market. Some of them, I promise you, will end up buying Picassos in the future, but you reach them down there in the bottom of the market. So what do they want from the market? If you ask them, which we did in the Barnebys report a couple of years ago, we saw that better value for money, unique items, quality and excitement is 4 of the top things that they want. But also the sustainability. And the sustainability aspect is, of course, more important for the younger audience and for the elder. But as you can see, it trumps investment by far. Now, better value for money. Well, also, when you talk about the younger group, you have to understand where to reach them. 50% of the user Barnebys today comes from the mobile phone. Of course, it differs from market to market. If you take Asia, for example, they don't even have a desktop. They just use this. So if you're not in a mobile phone, you can't reach them, kind of. Now, 50% of the market. So, what is so important for those people entering to the auction business? As you can see once again from the Barnebys auction report, the easiness and convenience when you place a bid is by far the most important for the new audience. As you also see, transparency, as I talked about, and reliability is extremely important. But also, of course, the good shipping options, that is one of the biggest challenges of this industry, I would say. But you can also see that physical inspection is still important. It's not online or not online. It's not online or analog. It's both. by, how do you say, attracting this new audience is also to understand what they are buying and how they're buying. They are used to buy things on retail. Obviously, how to reach them then? Well, that is very easy. It's to be close to the retail, how it looks like and how it works. This is a great example by one of the leading auction houses in the world when it comes to online sales, Bukowskis, where I once worked, next to IKEA, the world's most maybe famous, but also one of the biggest companies in the world, especially when it comes to furniture and interior decoration. The only, the only difference between them, I would say, is that the sideboard from IKEA from the 1960s cost more on Bukowskis than the sideboard does at IKEA nowadays. So, what does this audience also buy at auctions? Well, if you see here, collectibles, of course. You can see also interior decoration, furniture and design, but you can also see fashion and vintage, and jewelry and watches. 4 very strong categories. Why do you think those 4 categories are so big? Because the buyers that normally buy this, they're used to buy this on retail. And retail is way behind the auction business when it comes to online. So this audience, they have a very, very small step to enter your market if you approach them in the right way. Now, there is one thing with our business that is totally unique. It is a supply-driven industry. And as you know, if you go to a Nike store and there is a huge demand after this special shoe, they can just make a phone call, send an email to China where they produce 10,000 more shoes, 100,000 more shoes if you want. But antiques, they don't make it anymore. This is also why an aggregator such as Barnebys works differently in our market than other markets, like the fly industry, the hotel industry, for example. So when I came here the other day, I tried to buy a plane ticket by one of those aggregators to get the best price. So normally in the other industries, an aggregator starts a race to the bottom. You get the cheapest as possible. In our business, it's different. According to a study that Barnebys did in 2012, they said that for every new bidder, the end price increased with 30%. Of course, this is fine art, maybe not online sales, but that means that you need to approach more than 2 bidders. When I started at Bukowskis in the mid-90s, my CEO told me it's enough with 2 bidders to get the market price. That is a lie, I assure you. So, to understand how this works within the audience is complicated. There's a lot of reports saying that the purchase behavior takes between 10 to 14 days. This means that you, for example, should have your catalog online as long as possible. Because in that case, you get, you're searchable on Google, on your own site, on Barnebys, etc. And if you have it up there for a long time, you get more bidders or potential bidders to see your auctions. We talk about data. Data is super important, but it can also be tricky. For example, people said a couple of years ago that you can measure anything today. That is not true. And this is one example. So, you have this great couple here. They are supposed to have a party next Friday in New York in a new apartment at Manhattan that they just bought. Last weekend, they were in London, and they found this beautiful dining table that we use for that dinner. Now they got a mail saying that, I'm so sorry, we can't deliver the table because there is a strike in Mumbai, in India, in the harbor, so they can't send the table to you. I'm so sorry. Okay, what does he do? He do exactly what Christopher did some years ago. Started in Google. He found Barnebys, he found a table that he loves at Boils and Valleys. Okay, so he texted his wife and she said, wow, that's perfect. I know that you want to place a bid, definitely, but how did you find it? Well, I found it on Barnebys, but it's sold by Barnebys. Now, where do you think they go to place the bid? They don't go to Barnebys, they go to Åmells directly, of course. So even if we started the purchase behavior here, it's not sure that we is going to gain from the traffic that the auction house gets. And this is the chain. When you buy a Rolex like this, it can start by you read an ad in Le Quotidien de l'Art, and then maybe you see another ad on the bus passing by on the street. Then you see TV commercial, you find it on Barnebys, etc., etc. But in the end, here you place your bid. And this is what you see. To make you understand the value of a brand that is the biggest asset you have today, I will explain a little bit. This is a sculpture. It has the value of 1. If you add the brand, you will have another value. The value will increase to 3. Now, if you have the brand, a strong brand, you can add the best experts in the country or in the world. You can add the best marketing campaign. You can make the coolest event, etc. And 3 suddenly becomes 4, 5, 6, 7. So when it comes to brand, there is another example. One of the most successful branding campaign, I would say, ever is when Christie's the other year sold Salvator Mundi by Leonardo da Vinci. They got the highest price ever for a painting, $450 million. How is that possible? It is possible because Christie's is one of the strongest brands in the business. But not just Christie's, because there is another, even more stronger brand, and that is Da Vinci. And that is not the last brand they are working with. They work with one of the strongest brands in the world by far any time, Jesus Christ. So this is a combination of the 3 most famous brands in the world, and the price went from $10,000 to $450 million. It is not just me believing in the brand. Google does too. Some years ago, Google made an update called Penguin and another one called Panda. They have developed that algorithm since then. The last update was this year. And this is about how relevant sites are on Google. Because if you're going to use Google, you want relevance. Not like 2011, when the relevance was page number 19. You want relevance to be page number 1. So Panda and Penguin strengthen you as long as your brand is strong and as your links are relevant. This is one of the reasons why we work differently from the third-party platforms. When it comes to the platform model, that drives the traffic from your auction house to them. So you link to them and you brand them, which boosts the third-party platforms. Instead, with Barnebys, we provide you with the traffic. We strengthen you with a brand, we strengthen you with the links. That is super important for you. As I said, this is the greatest asset you have. In Sweden, there is a way to say this, to explain the differences. If you pee in your pants, in the beginning, it's warm and cozy, but after a while, it's getting wet, cold, and unpleasant. Thank you.